Hi everyone, today I will explain you absolute value. The objective for this day is to solve some operations applying the absolute value. But first you need to remember the definition for the absolute value. Basically, the absolute value is the distance from 0 to any position. For example, you can see here in the number line we have 0 and the distance from 0 to 3 it's 3, right? It doesn't matter if it's negative position or it's positive position, the distance is always 3. So in this case, we're gonna use the absolute value to represent a distance, okay? For example, here you have, if you count the distance from 0 to 1, the distance is 1. But if you count the distance from 0 to -1, the distance is going to be 1. So one of the reasons that the absolute value is always positive. We're going to use absolute value in real life when we are talking about quantities because we can say, Junior walk -2 meters. You can't say because we apply the absolute value and we say it doesn't matter if he walked in front or back, the distances are the same. So here we have some examples that say that we need to find the absolute value of the following numbers. We have absolute value -4, absolute value 12, absolute value -134, absolute value the negative absolute value of 23, and the negative absolute value of 123. Always when we talk about absolute value, we're going to use these symbols, the bars, that represent the absolute value. And remember the definition, it's always positive. It doesn't matter if the number inside the bars is positive or negative, the answer is always positive. So here we have some examples. Look at this. The absolute value of -4 is equal to +4. The absolute value of +12 is +12. The absolute value -134 is 134, equal 134. The absolute value negative, this negative is outside, so we copy, equal negative, and now we're gonna thinking in the absolute value of 23 because 23 is a number that is inside the bars. What is the absolute value of 23? It's 23. So as you see, the absolute value is always positive. So we have absolute value 12 is equal to 12. Absolute value -134 is equal to 134. Negative absolute value 23, we copy the negative outside, and the 23 that we copy inside. So the absolute value of 23 is 23. And finally, we have negative absolute value 123. First, we're going to copy the negative sign. We put equal, negative sign, and then we're going to thinking, or we're going to apply the definition for the absolute value. So absolute value 123, it's 123. So these are the answers for these absolute values. Now, in the next example, we're gonna solve some operations. But first, you need to solve the operation inside the absolute value. For example, here we have absolute value 4 plus 12. What is the absolute value 4 plus 12? First, we're gonna add these two numbers. We're gonna have absolute value 4 plus 12 is equals to 16. And then you're gonna think, what is the absolute value of positive 16? So it's equals to 16. So the absolute value 4 plus 12 is equals to 16. Remember, first you need to add 4 plus 12, that is equals to 16, and then you find the absolute value 16, that is equals to 16. Here we have absolute value 12 minus 7, because 12 minus 7 is inside the bars, so the bars of the absolute value. First, we need to solve this operation. So we're going to have 12 minus 7 is going to be 5. So we locate the bars, we copy 5, and we close with the second bar. And then absolute value 5, so it's equals to 5. And then we have 134 minus 135 minus 134. So that we need to subtract first these two numbers, so it's going to be equal absolute value 1. Because 135 minus 134, it's equals to 1. And then you have to think, what is the absolute value of positive 1? So it's 1. Remember, the absolute value, it's always positive. So we're going to write positive 1. And then we have the absolute value. In this case, we're going to write 2 plus 3, it's equals to 5. So equal the negative because it's outside, and then we have 2 plus 3, that is equals to 5. And then you have to think, what is the absolute value of positive 5? So it's equals to 5. We copy equal. The negative we copy because it's outside. And we copy the absolute value of positive 5, so it's positive 5. And then we have the last one. We copy this symbol, negative, because the negative is upside. Okay, so we copy equal and the negative. And then we solve the operation inside the absolute values bar. 12 plus 3, that is equals to 15. We close, and then we're thinking, what is the absolute value of 15? It's equals to 15. We copy equal, the minus sign, and finally the absolute value of 15, that is equals to 15. Remember, this negative we copy it because it's outside, okay? And now I will give you some examples of absolute value applications in real life. For example, as you can see, this is the origin or the initial point, and to the left and to the right, we have 1 mile to the left, 1 mile to the right. And it doesn't matter if we walk to the negative position or to the positive position, if we apply the absolute value, it's always positive, because you cannot say, I walk negative 1 mile, or I buy negative 1 lempiras, or I buy negative 1 baleadas. You can't say. So this is another example. If you see the rockets and we have the moon, it's in opposite positions, but both one are positive. Why are positive? Because we apply absolute value. It doesn't matter if are in different directions, in opposite directions. If we apply the absolute value, it's always positive. For example, you can see this boy, and he's taking the decision to walk to the west or to the east. But it doesn't matter if he walked to the west, it's going to be a positive. For example, I walk 2 meters. You can say, I walked negative 2 meters. You can say, because that's the reason that we apply absolute value, the definition of absolute value. Remember, the absolute value is always positive. We add them, 4 plus 12 is equals to 16, and then the absolute value 16 is equals to 16. Remember, the definition is always positive. It doesn't matter if the number is negative or positive, the answer is always positive. But be careful, because if the sign is upside, we need to copy. And remember, absolute value stay positive. This x means any number like 12, negative 134, 23, or 123. So remember, absolute value is always positive, okay? And if you have an operation inside the bars of the absolute value, you have to solve it first, okay?